Buenos días, Whitehorse. Estás viendo WMS Broadcast Tv, donde le mantenemos informado de todos los eventos que ocurren en su comunidad de aprendizaje.
We continue to celebrate Hispanic Heritage Month. Let's watch an informational video.
It should come as no surprise that New York City is a melting pot with several races and cultures. But there's one ethnic mix in particular that truly shows you how you should never judge a book by its cover.
Meet Michael Jung, a second-generation Korean raised since infancy in the Dominican Republic.
I was born in New York, right here. It's just that my family emigrated to the Dominican Republic for work. I could say I was born and raised there because I really act like a Latino over there. But
And how do you act like a Latino over there?
like very outgoing. When I speak, I always use my hands. A lot of Koreans, I don't think they really use their hands. Like, let alone like speak fast or a lot. A lot of Koreans that I've met, they're reserved. Like when they speak, they're like straight on to the point.
Mm-hmm. Michael, who's fluent in English, Spanish, and Korean, is 100% connected to his adoptive country.
Yo me identifico más con los dominicanos. Solo que mis visuales solo son coreanos.
Although Michael currently lives in New York, as many Latin Asians do, his family represents the millions of people who have created a formidable Asian diaspora in Latin America, a trend with historical roots that dates back to the 16th century.
There's an uninterrupted relationship between Asia and the Americas, particularly Mexico and Peru. You know, both Mexico and Peru had ports that had this yearly trade with China through the Philippines, trade with China, India, and Japan. That was uninterrupted between 1565 and 1815.
The Manila Galleon trade were Spanish trading ships that sailed the Pacific Ocean for over 200 years between Spain, Acapulco, and Manila. Filipinos who were on these voyages were the first Latin Asians in the Americas and were followed in the 19th century by Indian and Chinese laborers who were brought to the Americas as part of the coolie trade.
African slaves were the most important labor force in tropical production in the Caribbean, in coastal Peru. So there were debates, who was going to replace the slaves. And they thought in Indian indentured workers and Chinese indentured workers. So a large number of them are going to arrive to coastal plantations in Peru and Cuba.
There was a huge Chinese population in Cuba. They first came over as laborers, and then they opened their own businesses and started their own community there.
Maria Lau, a New Jersey born and bred fine art and documentary photographer of Latin Asian descent, documented her Chinese-Cuban ancestry in the multimedia series 71.
I never thought that 71 was going to be what it became, because it really just started with the intention of finding my aunts and fulfilling this wish for my grandfather, for my family. So it became my mission to find them. And it was going to be very difficult because their names would change, when they get married. Just to trace things back from Cuba to China, it took years. And I was able to bring them all together. It was a once-in-a-lifetime encounter that you can never replicate.
Asians also migrated to Peru, which has the largest Asian population of any Latin American country.
If you grow up in Peru, chances are somebody in your family is of Chinese descent. It's like in our blood.
Fabiana Chu, who currently lives in New York, is a fourth-generation Chinese Peruvian born and raised in Lima.
But never really had to, in Peru, explain what it was like to be Chinese Peruvian. I was never asked, when are you going back to China? I was never asked, are you really from here? Never, never. That was never a question that I was a Peruvian in Peru. But my race played a role in how people related to me. I wish it hadn't.
In Peru, as in many Latin American countries, whether you're Korean, Japanese, or from any other Asian background, you are almost always referred to as Chinese, or Chino, China, Chinita.
So that always made me uncomfortable. People will choose to refer to you as what you look like or what they think you look like. And I was always very uncomfortable with that.
That discomfort, however, never overshadowed Fabiana's cultural pride.
And then, of course, in Peru, we were being Peruvian 24/7, enjoying the food, being with our friends, visiting Machu Picchu, being proud of where we're from.
The Latin Asian mix is also celebrated through food, where dual heritage is served on a platter.
I'm very proud to be both Peruvian because I'm first Peruvian. I was born in Peru. And then I have the Asian culture, so I'm very proud of both.
Eduardo Oshiro is the Japanese-Peruvian owner of Aquario restaurant in Portchester, where his native culinary traditions are not another passing food trend. In fact, the staples of Peruvian cuisine have deeply rooted Chinese and Japanese influences.
I think we're doing a good job at providing our culture to others. Just about in every plate there's Asian influence into it. The ceviche was already there in Peru, but it had a lot of Japanese culture mixed in. The fried rice, that's where you get the Chinese side. So that you got the Chinese, and then the Japanese would be the tiradito. And then your traditional would be the yuca a la huancaína. As Peruvians, and in our food, we can offer a lot, for a lot of people that never tasted our food.
Whether it's through food, art, or just living life, Latin Asians are clearly a diverse group of people with different stories to tell, who share a common thread that defies perceptions of race and ethnicity.
Y soy peruana.
Yo soy coreano, pero soy dominicano.
Soy peruano con descendencia japonesa.
Yo soy China cubana.
According to the U.S. Census Bureau, there are almost 500,000 Asian Latinos living in the United States, mostly concentrated in New York, Texas, and California. For Asian American Life, I'm Tina Beth Pina.
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday. Happy birthday. Birthday to you. Happy birthday.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
That's all, folks.